Okay, so Jay Embry was making a claim the other day that Dylan couldn't have peeked through a slit in her door to see to the right. So to have seen Koberger coming from the right, that she would have had to stick her head clear out. But that is actually incorrect. She would have had to stick her head clear out to see to the left. So to see where the stairway was that was going up to Kaylee and Maddie's. But she could have had her door cracked just a sliver and seen what was coming from the right. Let me show you.
And I want you to notice something very important. That door is what's called a left swing door, which means you grab the door handle with your left hand and open it and pull it into your left when you open it. Because it's a left swing door, she can't crack the door and look out to the right. She has to literally stick her head out past the door frame to see to the right of that room.
Okay, so from this still shot from one of the TikToks that shows Dylan's room, you can see the doorknob's on the right-hand side of the door. And when you open it, you usually would use your right hand, not your left hand. And yes, when you open it into the room, it will swing to the left. But most people would use their right hand to open that door, not the left. But when you're inside the room and you're opening that door, it's pulling to your right, not your left. So let's take a look, because I have a door down in my basement that is the same opening as that. So here's that door as I'm walking up to it. I'm using my right hand and I'm opening my door. And yes, it pushes into the left. Now, as you can see, when I'm inside the room, I'm using my right hand to open the door, and the door opens to my right when I'm inside the room. So if I'm outside the room, yes, it swings into the left, but inside the room, it swings into my right. So what does that mean? That means when you crack open that door, what you can see when you peek through that crack is to the right. So whatever's outside of your room to the right. You can't see what's to the left without sticking your whole head out. So here's me cracking the door. And what I'm seeing is to the right. I can't see to the left. Through the crack, I can only see the right. Now, with the good vibes sign kind of backlighting with a little bit of glow, this is likely what Koberger would have seen. And he wouldn't have seen the crack in her door. Because if her room was dark, you can't see that crack in the door as you're walking by. Plus, if he was more concerned about turning to the right to go through the kitchen and the dining room, he wouldn't have been looking to the left at her door at all. But because Dylan would have had that backlight coming from the good vibes sign, she would have seen Koberger in a glow, like a dimly lit glow. And what is one of the most prominent features on his face? The deep set brow bone. In dim light, that would look like bushy eyebrows. And the thing you would notice would be the eyes. Now, it doesn't say what type of mask he was wearing. But if he had a balaclava, which a lot of us tend to think he did because he didn't lose any hair at the scene that we know of, then she wouldn't have seen his hair to give a description of hair. She would have seen the eyes. And that's what she gave the description of. And then as far as the people saying, well, he would have had blood all over his clothes. If he was wearing all black, you wouldn't see blood on the black clothing. So what I believe happened, and of course this is all speculation, but based on the probable cause affidavit and knowing what her door is like and where her room is at, is that she cracked the door, peeked out to the right. She saw him, but he didn't see her. And as far as people saying, well, wouldn't she have seen the knife? Not necessarily. If he was holding it against the right side of his body and it was against that wall in the hallway as he was walking and headed to turn right into the dining room kitchen area, she wouldn't have seen it. And it also sounds like she was looking up at his eyes. So she likely didn't look down low anyways. She was probably startled, saw his eyes. Um, like I said, he has deep set eyes, which can make the eyebrows look bushier, especially in dim light. And I also think the reason why we know that he didn't see her was because law enforcement put out there initially that she was asleep on the first floor. That's because they did not want the suspect to know there was an eyewitness. Only until he was arrested and that probable cause affidavit came out did we know that she saw him. They were protecting her. They did not want that out in the media that there was an eyewitness. And you might say, well, that's lying by law enforcement. Well, law enforcement actually does that quite often to protect a witness or protect a case. They choose what they put out to the media, and they choose whether to put out all the facts or withhold things that only the suspect would know, or to float red herrings. Sometimes you'll see that they may say that an eyewitness is dead that really isn't, because they want the perp thinking that the person's dead so that they can protect them. It was the same situation, I believe, with Dylan. They said she was asleep on the first floor because they didn't want the perp to know that anybody saw him on the second floor. That was to protect her. So let me know what you think. I know a lot of people disagree with that, but I've followed cases long enough to know that law enforcement will float out misinformation on purpose to protect eyewitnesses or to give enough rope for a suspect to hang himself by saying something that was never put out in the media.